Well, welcome to today's rant, which had to be inside because we're having a deluge outside. Not like the hurricanes, but thankfully, but we are having a nice wet day. But we're right in the middle of our KBA conference, our Kingdom Business Association, and here at our facilities in Fort Mill. And I am just stunned at the high level of the messages that are coming forth. And, a couple of weeks ago, we had our Harvest Conference, and it was the best. I think it was the best we have ever had. And, by the way, let me fix this. Okay, that's better. Anyway, I couldn't believe how high level the messages were, how they all dovetailed, fit together, and to all of them put together, I thought were the clearest trumpet call, clearest word we've ever had to go out, maybe in any of our conferences, but certainly in our Harvest Conference. It was off the charts. Daniel Kalinda, Jeremiah Johnson, we had Lou Engle, we had Todd Bentley, everybody just came like with their A game. And Lou even texted me and said he thought that was one of the most anointed he'd ever felt, but several of the other guys mentioned the same. I felt that. It was just extraordinary. Now, the KBA, it's continuing. I think that the words that Ed Silvoso brought last night and today were just about as powerful and clear, to me, fitting with the message that came out of the Harvest Conference. Anyway, we've got to put all these together and get them out to you. If you haven't seen them, I've started watching them over again. And you, as usual, you get more out of them the second time, even more still on the third time sometimes. But anyway, guess what? On the local news today, you've probably seen they finally caught the bomber. Seems like they have, at least they have a suspect in custody, and they seem pretty confident he's the guy who was sending out all these bombs. Now, I just want to mention a couple of things you probably won't hear on the normal media about this. Whatever his intent was, his personal intent, which I haven't heard anything about yet, I don't think it really matters. I think we have to understand the bigger picture of what this was intended to do and by who is intended to do it to us. Now, I'm not talking about the Russians. I'm not talking about the Democrats. I'm not talking about the Republicans. I'm not talking about leftist extremists or right-wing extremists. But I'm talking about the devil. And, because this person may have politically been motivated by anything. Of course, a lot of people start speculating when it came out that these bombs were not rigged to go off. It's like he just wanted to send them a bomb, but there was no mechanism to set it off, it seems. There's a lot could come out, but those were some of the things that initially came out. And was he just that slow, or was he, intending that? And if so, why? And because of that, of course, a lot of people thought, well, he's probably trying to pin it on the right-wing extremists because he sent it all to major Trump critics and everything. Well, I don't want to speculate about any of that. I think it's important to find that out. But regardless of why he did it, I think there's a bigger picture we need to understand. I hear a lot about conspiracy theories, and guess what? I know there's some truth to a lot of it. There are people out there conspiring to do things, always have, always will. But, the real reason is, the real enemy is the accuser of the brethren, is trying to bring division, trying to wear us out, trying to get us to fight each other, knowing that a house divided cannot stand. So main thing he wants to do is everybody blaming everybody else. Well, this was a terrorist attack. No other way to categorize it. It was a terrorist attack. And I am just so proud of our country, the way we basically went on business as usual. Weren't intimidated, didn't change much. I'm sure a lot of politicians are much more on edge now. But I hope even those who received the bombs, who are all people I do not politically agree with, but I hope they just have the courage to motor on, not be intimidated, not be threatened, not let fear control them. That's the worst thing any of us can do, is let fear control us. And that, I know there's a lot of rhetoric. It's been being on, in my opinion, it's mostly coming from one side, but this may be evidence that, now the other side is saying that's enough. We're going to start attacking too. And that's, of course, an escalation nobody wants to see. And to me, that is the point. We cannot let terrorism win. We cannot let the devil win. And I think instead of, we're commanded as Christians to love our enemies, not blow them up. No Christian should ever be a part of any such plot or whatever. That is just, I don't believe it is. And I know there are ethical issues and questions that a lot of things would come up. How about Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Did he do the right thing? I think there's a lot of, circumstantial evidence that actually convicted him of being a part of the plot to assassinate Hitler. But to be honest, if I'd been him in Germany at that time, I probably would have said, I'm going to do this thing. This guy's he's killing millions of people. He's got to go. And, and if it wasn't right, I'd ask the Lord for forgiveness later. But I think in some cases, things are so extreme, you just have to take out somebody. But, there's nobody, we're talking about differences in policy. We're talking about, nowhere is anybody out there exterminating millions of people or anybody. That's good. Yes, some people, we may think some people are being hurt by certain policies. Others, think everybody's being hurt by other policies. But, it's policies in government. Sometimes even the best solution to a problem is only a tiny bit better than the worst solution. And any decision you make, some people are not going to like it. Some people are going to be hurt. It's how do we hurt less people? I know about this caravan coming up now. One of my kids sent me a picture showing a young child, obviously in distress, and just asked me, how can we be pro-life? Had a picture of an embryo up there, along with this picture of the child in this caravan. How can you be pro-life? How can you be for this life but not that one? Well, I'm for both. I am absolutely for both. And, because you don't think you should just open the floodgates of your country, you should just open your borders to anybody who wants to come in. That doesn't mean you don't want to help the children. You don't want to help everyone. You don't want to protect them. The worst thing you could do if you really cared about little girls like that, little kids, a huge percentage of those girls are being sexually abused every day on that caravan. Now, if you allow caravans as the method of transportation and method of entry into a country they want to get into, you are subjecting almost all of them to the worst horrors you can imagine. That is not the way this thing should be done. Can't be done. And if they're successful, it's only going to mean probably the next route will be hundreds of thousands, and it will ultimately be millions pouring in. Now, but here's the point. Now, that can be allowed. They got to be stopped. No question about it. You can't allow that to go on for the sake of the children, the sake of people in the caravan, but the sake of Americans. But you know, most of you probably flown on airliners, you know how during the safety briefing, they tell you if the cabin depressurizes and the oxygen masks fall, if you're a parent, put it on yourself before you put it on your child. Now, why would they say that? Are they saying you should take care of yourself before you take care of your children? No, it's so you will stay conscious with oxygen. You'll have the oxygen to stay conscious so you can help your child, because they're probably not going to be able to figure it out. You have to help yourself first. Now, there are a lot of ways that we have to take care of ourselves. That's why I believe it is, was written in Scripture that if you don't take care of yourselves in your own household, you're worse than an infidel. Because you can't help the infidels if your own family is not secure. We can't help the other nations if our own nation is not secure. But here's the point also. I know there's a lot of really bad people in that caravan. Drug dealers, gang members. It sounds like maybe even terrorists, in there, maybe even a high percentage of them, according to some of the reporters. But I would say we could probably still say 90% of those people really are just desperate for a life that would take care of their country. Now, that may be high because like the caravans or the immigration into Europe, it's turned out this one's about 90%, not families, not children, but young men. And it doesn't look good, but those countries down there are desperate. I'm thankful to live in a country we have to have walls to keep people out instead of prison walls to keep them in, like communism had to do. And everybody wants to come to America, and I'm thankful for that. And but we can't take everybody. That's obvious. But who can we take? But why couldn't we just think about where the countries this caravan is from, these people are from, in South and Central America? They are our neighbors. And we are commanded to love our neighbors. Mexico's our neighbor. And by the way, there are incredible moves of God taking place in Mexico right now. And amazing things going on down there. The guys taking, these are our brothers and sisters. And just about everybody who works with Mexicans or have Mexicans working for them think they're the best workers on the planet. They're incredible workers, generally really good, decent people, love their families, and are just really good neighbors. Now, there are exceptions, and there are to every people group. But what an awesome neighbor we have in Mexico. What awesome people. What awesome people in Central America. All these other countries, Guatemala, Honduras, and all. What we really need to think of, how can we help those countries become so great and so stable that, they don't need to want to come to America. I was looking at that caravan yesterday just thinking, a lot of those people in that caravan may never see their family members again. They may never make it back home. They may, not because they're hurt or killed or whatever. Some of them are going to be. There's obviously a lot of people, a lot of traps set for those people in the caravan with traffickers and everything else, which is terrible tragedy. But the others, nobody wants to leave their family, their neighbors, everything they've always known. But But that's how desperate they are. Why can't we focus on helping those countries? I think, one thing that if the government's behind, their governments are behind sending a caravan like this, which is lawlessness, you can't help that government. But you can help. There are a lot of things we can do, especially as the church, we can do to help turn those countries around. Mexico is a thriving economy. I mean, they rose to be number 6 in the world. I don't know if they're still there or not. I haven't checked lately, but amazing things were going on economically in Mexico. We read a lot of the bad news, the cartels, the assassinations, the beheadings, all that, which is absolutely terrible, and the corruption in a lot of the governments. I'm talking about the local state governments in different states in Mexico and cities and all, but we have an incredible neighbor. And some of these things are being overcome. Some of the corruption's being overcome. And a lot of it is happening because of the church standing up, Christians standing up and doing things that are unprecedented down there. Now, also, I like to say that I'm just trying to sow some seeds there. I know I'm thinking about it, and I know there are Christian presidents and all in that part of the country. I believe we're going to have a lot more. I believe we're going to have major transformation so that their countries are so great they don't need to want to go anywhere else. And these countries like Venezuela, and they're just devastated. Well, we've got to help our neighbors. And but also the things going on within our own country and law enforcement and all. Right now, 80% of all crime in America is drug-related. Our law enforcement has been hammered in so many ways over the last couple of years, especially. What's been exposed in the FBI has been horrendous. I mean, this is unimaginable in a republic, in our country. I mean, what took place at the top of the FBI and our Department of Justice, unbelievable, still not resolved. Where's our Attorney General? Just saying. But a terrible thing, but the FBI rose to the occasion with this bomber situation, did their job, did it brilliantly, working in harmony with the other law enforcement agencies, New York Police Department, police departments in Florida. Everybody worked together, got the job done so fast, so effectively. And just, that's what the FBI is for, and that's what they can do. And, we need to really look at how wounded and devastated our own law enforcement has been and how much support they need as well. And appreciation. They don't ask for much. They take some of the lowest salaries and they risk their lives sometimes virtually every day. And they're not looking for more money. They're not, but they would love to have appreciation and support. And again, I'd just like to ask you, if you're in a restaurant and there are first responders there, consider picking up their check. Consider just thanking them for what they do. I know they hear it all the time, and that's good. That is good, because they're also hearing other terrible, terrible things being said about them. And there are some bad eggs in every organization, every group, and they make everybody else look worse. But for the overwhelming majority, I mean, I would hate to think what the world would be like without them. So, let's determine we'll not let fear win. We're not going to let this escalation of rhetoric I pray, I'll never again buy a New York Times thing without a radical transformation, but they're still blaming Trump. And they actually published a story, I think it was yesterday, a fantasy about President Trump being assassinated. I mean, we really got to start calling people, this is over the edge. It's way out of bounds. It's not a little bit. It's not just over the edge. It's way over the edge. It's time to stop on all sides. And, but will it? I think it's going to take more than just talking about it. I think we're going to have to start living what we preach. I think we're also going to have to start doing the number one thing more than ever. We've got to start praying and fasting for our country. We have all of the signs, all of the evidence of a major great awakening percolating just under the surface. That's what it's going to take to really change things. So, we overcome evil with good. And so when leaders get attacked, and I just ask you to do this too, if this was an attack by some right-wing extremist or crazy person or whatever, consider praying for all those who were attacked with these pipe bombs. Pray for grace and protection. And this is not the way we do business here. That we start wishing ill on each other and attacks on each other, and when a former, absolutely a person came close to being president says, this is not time for civility. That no, we say you will never run our country. This is time for civility. This is, if there's ever been a time, it's a time to rediscover good manners, civility, basic morals, basic morality, and how we treat one another, and how we learn to start disagreeing, but don't let it ever rise to the status of hatred and evil and wanting ill and attacking one another, physically, verbally, or anything. That's not what is going to win. And but it is what is being exposed. So let's see it for that, see all of that for the evil that it is, but let's resolve that we're not going to try to overcome evil with evil, but we're going to try to overcome evil with a different spirit. And so anyway, all these people that were attacked or sent these bombs, they're Americans, they're fellow Americans. And there's some way that's got to start trumping, no pun intended, just our political differences. And a lot of people hate America all over the world. They hate Americans. And some of them have good reasons to. There have been some Americans to do really terrible things to other countries, to other people. But let's resolve, okay, we're going to rise above that. We're going to use this as an opportunity for good and see the kingdom prevail. Start praying for your law enforcement and pray for the FBI. They have been decimated, devastated, and it's going to take a long time to restore many people's trust in them. Well, what happened today, I think, should help start doing that. The rank and file, as many have said, you can't judge them by what a few of the leaders and those who were able to gain the reins of the FBI did. The rest of them are not like that. At least most of them aren't. Anyway, thank you for listening to today's rant. And if you can get a hold of the messages that have been coming forth, we'll be posting them on our website and everything and making them available. Incredible words coming forth. Incredible clear trumpet call that means there's going to be marching orders. There are marching orders. That means God is on the move, and He is.